Hey there, welcome back friends. Today we will see interrupts. Now friends, we have already seen the usage of wait and notify in our previous video. We have already seen the usage of sleep method as well. Now whenever we make use of, for example, wait, we need to catch the exception because there could be an exception. The type of the exception is interrupted exception. Now what is this interrupted exception? Interrupted exception means some other thread has interrupted the current thread. Now friends, if we check this program is taken from the previous video. I have simplified this program little bit where we only have the withdraw method, and inside this withdraw method, based on some condition, we are simply calling in the wait method. Now note that we are not making use of notify method in here. As a result, if we execute this program will keep on waiting and the program will not terminate by itself. So there is some kind of mechanism issue. There is no timeout duration provided to this wait method. We are not making use of the notify method, but there is a yet another way how we can stop this thread. And the way is making use of interrupt. As soon as we make use of interrupt method, and interrupted exception would be thrown to this thread, and as a result we can stop the thread or do some other stuff. So let me show you how we can handle this. So for example, in here in this withdraw method, the balance equals to 0. There is no withdraw method. So what we will do, we will simply wait, right? And in here inside this catch block, let us display one message: thread got interrupted. Right? So pretty cool and standard message. And moving forward, after we have started the thread, what we will do, we will say if balance is less than equals to 0, then we will firstly call in the sleep method. Why I am calling the sleep method? In order to simulate the situation in a better manner. There is no specific need of the sleep method. I am simply calling in the sleep method to simulate the situation better, right? So this looks good to me. And once the sleep duration is timed out, we will type in thread1 dot interrupt. Now friends, whenever we are calling in the interrupt method, we have to have the reference. So in here the reference is thread1. For example, we make use of runnable interface and create an anonymous thread. In those cases, we won't be able to call in the interrupt method. Now what is anonymous class or anonymous thread is something which we will discuss in a minute. As of now, let us execute this program, and in here it will say waiting for balance updation. After 5 seconds, it will say thread got interrupted, and then moving forward, it will also say withdrawal successful and the current balance is minus 1000, which is not a good thing. Why? Because inside this catch block we are not calling in the return statement. As a result, all the statements inside this method got executed. Alright, so let me add in the return statement, and now if I execute the program, then it will say waiting for balance updation, and after 5 seconds it will say thread got interrupted, and take a note of it that the program got terminated. Alright, so let me show you what is a thread with anonymous class. So in here, let me get rid of this reference. As soon as we do this, we won't be able to start the thread using the reference. So as a result, we need to start it directly. And here we won't be able to call the interrupt. So this is known as thread with anonymous class because in here we don't have the reference. So these kind of threads are the threads where we won't be able to call the interrupt method because we don't have the reference. Getting the reference is important. Definitely you can create a thread using the thread class and create an object of the thread class and definitely make use of interrupt method. There won't be any issue. But where we don't have the reference, we won't be able to call in the interrupt method. So this is one thing. Let me quickly undo the changes. Here we go. Now friends, we have called in the interrupt method from the main method itself. Now we can definitely call in the interrupt method from some other method as well. So that is again a point. Now how we can do it is something which we will see, and in order to make things quick, we will take help of our previous program. We will copy the deposit method. The logic was previously implemented. We will summarize this in a minute, and moving forward, let's do one more thing. Let us copy this thread as well. All right, let me close this program and let me do one small little thing. Let me get rid of this and let me paste in this code. And finally, let me format things a little and finally call in the thread2.start method. Alright, so let me summarize this program real quick. This program is derived from our previous video where we have this withdraw method. What is this withdraw method? We know we will simply check the balance, and if the balance value is less than equal to 0, we will call in the wait method. We are also catching the interrupted exception, which is cool. Then we have this deposit method where we are receiving one parameter, and once we are receiving the parameter, we are simply displaying a message. We are depositing the amount and we are simply adding the amount to the current balance, and then we are calling in the notify method. As if now we won't be calling in the notify method in our logic, we will take help of interrupted exception rather. And then moving forward, inside thread 1 we are simply making use of this run method, and inside the run method we are calling in the withdraw method. And inside thread 2 we are making use of a sleep mechanism for 5 seconds, and then after the timeout we are simply calling in the deposit method, the standard stuff from our last video. Now definitely we need to make some changes to implement the interrupted exception into this program. So let us currently see how the program is executing. Now friends, if I execute this program now, then this will show a message waiting for balance updation, which is cool. And then after 5 seconds, it will say we are depositing the amount, which is again good. But the main issue is the program will not terminate automatically. Rather, it is continuing its execution. We can explicitly terminate the program, and now it got terminated. Now friends, the reason is pretty simple. The wait method is waiting, and there is no call to notify method or interrupt method from some different thread. Now how to fix this issue? Definitely we will make a call to interrupt method in this example. Now friends, if we check this program, inside the thread 1 we have made the call to the withdraw method, and inside thread 2 we have made the call to the deposit method, which is cool. Now when we have taken the example of notify, in that example we have made the call to the notify method inside this deposit method. Now if we try the same here and we try to call in the interrupt method inside the deposit method, then it seems to be good enough, but there would be an issue. If I try to make use of thread1.interrupt, then thread1 reference is not available inside this method. As a result, we won't be able to interrupt from this deposit method. What is the solution? Definitely we can call in the interrupt method directly from the run method itself. Now friends, the reason why we are not able to call in the interrupt method directly inside the deposit method is pretty simple. Interrupt method is derived by reference, and we need to and we have to have the reference thread1. Now thread1 reference is not visible inside this deposit method. Thread1 reference is local for this main method, so we won't be able to call in thread1.interrupt method. Let me show you. Thread1 reference is not available in here. Alright, so not a problem. What we will do is we will directly call in thread1.interrupt inside the run method, right? So we will type in thread1.interrupt. If I execute this program now, then definitely we would be able to see some changes in our output waiting for balance updation. After 5 seconds, we are depositing the amount, thread got interrupted. Now the logical issue arises. This program is not logical now. Now friends, when it comes to multi-threading, in many a time inside the catch block of the interrupted exception, we perform some actions, or we end or we kill the thread. So this is a common practice. So what we will do is we will perform some action directly inside this catch block. So we will cut these two line of statements and we will paste it in here. Now friends, we can also skip making use of this return statement. Let me skip it. Now the impact of this removal of return statement would be nothing, because there is no statement after the return statement, right? So now if I execute the program, it will give us a proper and a logical output waiting for balance updation. We are depositing the amount, withdrawal successful, and the current balance is 1000, which is cool. Let me rerun this. Waiting for balance updation, we are depositing 2000, then we will withdraw 1000, so the current balance would be 1000, right? So we are depositing the amount and everything looks good, and we will make this program better. Let me do one thing. In here we will add in some messages as well. during the deposit process we will again do some messaging thing. So in here let me add in the statement as we are depositing the amount, and the amount would be amount. Likewise, we will add in some other statements in here as well. So first of all, we will print the original balance. Here we go. And then we will display the amount of withdrawal. Here we go. Now if I execute the program, we will get a better output, waiting for balance updation. Then we are depositing 2000, original balance 2000, withdrawal amount 1000, withdrawal successful, and the current balance is 1000, which is cool, right? So this looks good to me. Now moving forward, we have already checked the if condition, but now we will add in a else condition as well. So in here, let's add in a else condition. Now friends, inside this else block, let us paste this statement, and this is very simple statement. We are inside else, right? So this is cool. And let's do one more thing. We will update the balance from 0 to 5000. Now friends, try to understand how the process will take place and how the threads will execute. As soon as we will execute this program, the main method will get executed. Thread 1 will call in the withdraw method, and if we check the withdraw method, in here we have this if condition. The if condition will be false, and we will be simply calling in and displaying this line of code. And the message would be pretty simple. We are inside else. Now take a note of it that we won't be able to call wait method, and there won't be any catch block for interrupted exception. Now if we check thread 2, inside thread 2 we will try to deposit 2000 again, and we will try to call in the interrupt method. Now imagine whether there would be some unexpected output, whether there would be some crash or something like that. The answer is pretty simple. If we are calling in the interrupt method and we are not catching the interrupted exception, then there is no issue. It's absolutely okay. And let me show you, the program should work properly, and it is simply showing we are inside else, and after some time it will say we are depositing amount 2000, which is printed by thread 2, and there is no issue. The program has terminated without showing us any unexpected result. Now friends, before closing in this lecture, let me do one small little thing. In here I will be adding a OR block, which will say if balance is less than amount, again execute this if block. That will make this program little more logical. Now friends, you guys can definitely experiment more with interrupt. You can experiment, modify, and deal with all of these interrupt, wait, notify concept in your own way. You can create your own program, you can experiment, you can modify this program, because practice is required to understand these little bit complex concepts. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Thanks for watching.